let's say for the person listening right now, they're like, okay, these guys, they're speaking so much sense right now. I'm totally on board with what Mike is saying. I really want to achieve my goal of fat loss right now. What would you recommend to that person? Like, what are your best pieces of advice to help set them up for success?
Yeah, I would probably figure out about how many calories and grams of protein I needed. I would probably go to a few of these free websites, assuming this person isn't working with a coach. Getting a good coach is probably step number one for most. But if you're not getting a coach and you want to make some changes, I would go to a few sites, plug in my information, and get the numbers. And I say a few sites because they could be pretty wildly off, and getting a few examples can get you an average. So I'd probably start there for a few weeks. Now, in order to set up the eating plan, I would think of foods in terms of the macronutrients, the proteins, the fats, and the carbs. I would think of dominant macro foods, meaning what foods are primarily protein, what foods are primarily fat, what foods are primarily carbs. When you're doing this stuff, you probably don't want to start with a lot of mixed macro foods because it's harder to adjust when you need certain portions. I would download a tracking app, something like Macros First, MyFitnessPal, one of these things, and I would start logging my food, but I would make sure to plan it ahead of time. I would get my grocery shopping done. I would think of when am I going to eat breakfast? When am I going to eat lunch? When am I going to eat dinner? I would advise people to limit snacks unless it was something that was protein, like a yogurt or protein shake, primarily because snacking, and I get pushback sometimes on this, I think it's a bad habit because even if you're snacking on what you would call healthy foods, I think it's very easy once you get off of tracking to gravitate towards the unhealthy foods that are untracked. For example, carrot sticks can easily turn to Doritos or potato chips or chocolates. So I like people to work on their habit of snacking, not only because these foods are extra calories and often unfulfilling, unlike a meal, they are rarely protein, and the habit of snacking is often done in a distracted manner, aka mindlessly, also known as food that people never ate, right? People say they eat 1,200 calories, probably 800 calories of snacks in there that they didn't even know about. So I think I would just do things like that. I would probably get to bed a little earlier if I could. You know, parents, don't yell at me. I'm a parent too. It's hard to get 8 hours as a parent, but there's a lot of people who aren't parents who are staying up till 1 o'clock playing video games. I would probably advise to not do that. I would lift weights at least 3 days a week. Maybe a full body routine is great. I would get 10,000 steps. I would do a couple days of cardio. And I would rethink a lot of relationships in my life if I were struggling with my weight, because there's a lot of people that might be pulling you down who have been around a long time who are not serving you anymore. And that could be the same for like a young entrepreneur. Like if you're like 25 and you're trying to build a business and all your friends just want to go out and get drunk all the time, probably not the best idea. And I think fitness and health is the same way. So there's probably a lot more things that people could do, but that's probably a good start. And it might sound overwhelming, but it's not really. There's a few key things in there that I think if they just did that, they'd be in a great place.